welcome to Raconteurs News.
Good evening and welcome to Raconteurs News. My name's Andy Young. It's Thursday. It's Thursday already, and it's Thursday the 1st of September. Where the heck has this year gone? It's been flying by for me, and this week's another one that's flown by. The days just seem to be going by in a matter of minutes. Don't know what the hell's happening. Are you finding that, Jason?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am a little bit. I've also. I don't know. I don't know what to. I don't know what to make of it. It just seems to be going so fast that you just can't keep up with it. I don't know whether it's Mandela effect. I don't know whether it's because the speed of light's increasing. I really don't know. But time seems to be going past a lot quicker than it used to. Maybe I'm just getting older.
Well, yeah, that's an argument a lot of people say. Oh, well, it's just because you're getting older. It seems like time's flying. But, hey, I've been really looking forward to tonight for quite a while because we've got a guest on tonight who was recommended by a previous guest, actually, John Hamer. And as soon as he mentioned this gentleman, I thought, yeah, we've got to get him on. I've had a couple of brief conversations with him, another one last night. And he is truly fascinating. And tonight we're delighted to welcome for the first time on Raconteurs News, Timothy Spearman, all the way from Canada. Good evening, Timothy.
Hello.
Evening, Timothy.
Hi, Jason. How are you? Yeah, it's great to be on with you guys. I'm looking very forward to it. It should be an exciting show.
And you mentioned something which caught me quite off guard last night when we were talking that you'd like to talk about tonight, and that was Canada's worst ever terrorist incident. Oh,
right, yeah. I then searched on 1985. I came about Indian, well, actually he was from French Mauritius, but he has, some cultural connection to India because of the Hindu religion and so forth. He proposed that we do a screenplay of some denomination, some form, and I decided, well, look, why don't we be a disaster story, because it involved
oh dear, we're having quite a bit of trouble hearing you there, Timothy. Skype seems to be playing its usual tricks on us.
To the mic, maybe that'll help.
Okay, that would be a big help. Try again, Timothy.
Oh, the
Okay, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to try and reconnect with Timothy here, aren't we, Andy? It's we seem to be having really bad Skype problems, and yeah. I've got one of those where the bars are yellow, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've got that as well. What we'll do, we'll drop this call and reconnect it. We'll have a quick tune from your mate Heath while we're trying to sort things out. We'll be back as quick as we can, folks.
The blues. Now it's time to choose. Starting to wake up from the sleep, from all the lies they spread that run so deep. But I will lace no more. Who are they fighting for? It isn't me. But now I see there is a new world order, but we're not invited. So much blood and murder from the drones unsighted. World War III is haunting me. I've got to find a way to save my family. The human race has lost its way. We put our trust in science, but it's a soup. Used to be civilized, but we've been compromised. We're on a one-way train. We've got to break this chain. They want a piece of me. Should
Okay, folks, and we've managed to get Timothy back, and it seems like we've got a bit clearer Skype line. So, because I think we lost most of what you were saying there, Timothy, could you start again from the beginning, please?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Timothy, shall we start from the very beginning? Can you give us a very brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and a brief history of just who Timothy is?
Sure. Okay. I did Air India program that was aired for.
Yeah, what do you do? What would you say you are? Are you an artist?
No, I'm a scholar and an artist. I don't know where this feedback sound is coming from, guys, but I'm hearing feedback.
No, it's not from my end because I'm muted. Could you possibly mute while Timothy's talking, Jason?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. So I am an author and a scholar. I've taught as a university professor. Currently, I'm teaching just as a tutor in a tutoring academy. So I have a lot of essays and articles, and I guess probably the book that I'm most noted for is Gandhi Under Cross-Examination. It's a book that tries to show that Gandhi is not what he was cracked up to be. I plan on publishing some more information about Gandhi in a book that I will be releasing probably late this year around Christmas time called All the World's Staged and You and I Are Merely Played. It's obviously taken from the line from All's Well That Ends Well that basically purports that we live on a stage and that the men and women are merely players was the original Shakespearean concept. And I do agree that it has been up till now a stage with a lot of people creating a lot of dissemblement and duplicity and lies and living a charade and carrying on in a way that's just not authentic. And those days are fast coming to a nexus point, and we're embarking on a new earth, I believe. They talk about the ascension. I am not at all cynical about that concept. And I think we're going through a transition period and a liminal period. We're at the threshold or the cusp of a new age, and it's obviously the case that we're going through a lot of ruptions and difficulties, but once we pass through the gates, we will enter a golden age, a kind of paradise. I work with the mother here in Toronto. She's Sanda Davis from Romania, and she has a TV show, and I'll be one of her key writers. And I really do believe in her message and her teachings, and I have, with my own eyes, witnessed the work that she does that is quite astounding in terms of improving affairs on this planet. So I write screenplays, novels, scholarly books, articles, poetry. I've done a little bit of music. And so I try to be creative and helpful, sharing information with people and hopefully waking up a few souls to what's going on. And so thank you very much for asking, Jason, and that's pretty much who I am.
Thanks for that, Timothy. Okay, now if you'd like to bring us on to the incident you were talking about with me last night, because little bits of it had stuck in my mind, but the whole story really, it was erased from my memory.
Okay. Yeah, the Air India bombing of 1985, it appears that maybe you didn't hear too much about it over there, but I imagine the Irish heard an earful, because the Flight 182, there were two flights involved, but one of the Air India flights, 182, crash landed in the North Atlantic, just off the coast of Ireland. All 324 passengers and crew on board were killed. My research revealed that Asing and Emsing, who managed to somehow subvert the customs and check-in procedures at Montreal's Mirabel Airport, had their suitcases loaded on board, but yet these men themselves did not get on the flight. Their baggage did, however. And obviously their baggage contained an incendiary that caused the fuselage of the aircraft to split along its entire length, and the second blast effectively lifted the roof off the economy section of the aircraft, and it threw or jettisoned a lot of the passengers into the air, and tragically most of them died of flailing injuries due to the high wind velocity of traveling at that great speed. Nearly everyone was dead by the time they hit the water. One woman survived the impact, and her autopsy revealed that she had died from drowning. Her lungs were full of water. It was also revealed that she was pregnant, and so probably this tremendous will to live stemmed from the fact that she was carrying a child. It's clear to me from the research that I did that Asing and Emsing were members of the Confederate Lodge of Freemasonry, which boasted the membership of the person tied to the Oklahoma bombing affair in 1995, 10 years later. You know Timothy McVeigh. I'm sure you've heard of the name. I don't really know what status of involvement he had in the Oklahoma bombing, because it was a government operation. The Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm Bureau Agency was behind the exercise. There was actually a drill exercise that morning, and many witnesses claim that they saw bomb squad officials going into the building. I suspect that they were the ones that were checking to make sure that the Simtex explosive charges were rightfully placed and ready to go under the cover of a bomb drill exercise, which is a common modus operandi with all false flag terror operations, as you guys well know. Yeah. So this is a common denominator, of course. Paul Bernardo, the serial killer Satanist who was torturing and killing poor young ladies as part of his satanic ritual abuse that was recorded on film. I understand from other researchers that these films, these snuff films, were to be provided for the entertainment of a sick elite political group that would be connected probably to the Ontario legislature. And a man by the name of Robert O'Driscoll, who was a professor at the University of Toronto, a tenured professor who lost his job because he published a trilogy of books. One of them was New World Order Corruption in Canada, and he named Bob Rae, who was the premier of the province of Ontario, as being the illegitimate father, or rather his son being the illegitimate son of himself, Paul Bernardo being his illegitimate son. This author, Robert O'Driscoll, ended up losing his job as a tenured professor because of the book. The book was then impounded by Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, and then the poor chap ended up being murdered, I believe, in Ireland when he was on some kind of research holiday over in the old country. This series of connections, of course, aren't coincidental. There's a satanic cabal ruling the world. What is called the Illuminati is simply one conduit of it, or one extension of it. The Jesuit Order of the Catholic Church would be another extension of it. The Church of Rome I regard as being the empire of the beast, that being the Roman Empire, and it was recreated under a new name, the Holy Roman Empire, and then it became the Church of Rome. In essence, it's the same entity. In essence, the same interbreeding bloodlines are behind the power structure of the empire. Since its ancient days, they still rule from behind the scenes. And so this horror story goes in many directions, but let's just say that Air India was orchestrated by the Research Analysis Wing of the Indian government, which is their intelligence service, and with the collusion of the RCMP, CSIS, which is Canada's CIA, and with the cooperation of the FBI, they had ASING and MSING involved in a counterintelligence operation. And in one occasion in New Orleans, they were to attack a Indian politician that was speaking in New Orleans with a bomb, but the FBI claimed that they foiled the operation and that the two suspects fled and were not captured. Well, in essence, they were working with the FBI, so this was one of their typical counterintelligence operations. So it was a setup, and it was probably just to put them on the radar as terrorists and to make it look like they were Sikh terrorists that were targeting the property of India. Supposedly, the bombs that were placed on both flights, one was going from Vancouver to Narita Airport in Japan, and the other flight was bound for London Heathrow Airport from Toronto Pearson Airport. And they had timed the devices on board the two flights so that they would go off 1/2 hour after the planes touched down at their respective destination points. But this was all timing-wise thrown off by the fact that at Toronto Pearson Airport, the baggage inspection machines failed for the first time in their history. And there had been no training exercise for using the handheld sniffing devices, as they call them, which are held up to the baggage to see if there's anything that's metallic or could be bomb-related. So the delay of 2 hours, because of these security failures, caused the flight to be delayed, so that instead of the plane reaching London Heathrow, it blew up off the coast of Ireland. There was another additional reason for the delay, and that is that they were attaching a fifth engine to the wing. Now, I know that on some commuter flights, it's possible for cargo to be attached to a wing of an aircraft, but a fifth engine is something that no one I know has been able to explain how it would be possible, because normally they would berth that sort of item in the cargo bay of the aircraft and not put it on a wing, because it throws off the aerodynamic safety of the aircraft to have something that heavy on one side of the aircraft. It just doesn't make sense.
Well,
now,
an aircraft is a piece of precision engineering. It gets off the ground because of its design, and to design one half with more weight on than the other half is beyond the pale of any common sense, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. So even though this has been raised in the two court reviews of this case, one was the official court case to prosecute one suspect that was a bomb maker by the name of Riyadh. But the other case was an inquiry, supposedly an independent inquiry that was launched several years ago, I think about 8 years ago now. And it basically failed to find anything substantive. And from that point forward, the case has been not only closed, but sealed. And all the documents archived on CBC, our national broadcaster, have been removed. Anything on the internet archive-wise bearing on the case has disappeared. So it is a whitewash and a cover-up, because why would you do that?
Well, what's the official explanation? I mean, there must be an official report into what happened, an air crash investigation. What's that say?
They blame the Sikhs, and this has basically served the cause of preventing the secessionist movement, where the province or the state known as the Punjab would secede from India and succeed in creating the dream of an independent homeland called Khalistan. It isolated the Sikh community not only within Canada, but worldwide, and it basically cut off the funding as well that would have led to the possibility of Khalistan, the independent homeland. And it was an intelligence operation that involved the collusion of the Canadian and American governments. So basically, when you look at Quebec and the threat of secession that's always been posed by this minority population within Canada, and you look at the same situation in India, not just with the Sikhs, but with other minority groups that might pose the threat of seceding from Indian Confederation, you could see why there might be a treaty agreement between both nations to cooperate on some kind of covert operation to nip such secessionist movements in the bud.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. This is one of those incidents that perhaps goes under the radar of many people, because I'm not sure that I'm aware of it. And I do pay particular attention, particularly to plane crashes. What sort of timescale are we looking at here? When was this?
1985, and 324 passengers and crew were killed on board Flight 182, which made it Canada's worst terrorist event in its history. The other flight did land at Narita Airport in Japan. The passengers were fortunately offloaded before the incendiaries did their nasty work. There was an effort to transit into the airport terminal so that it could connect with another flight bound for, I believe it was Bangkok. And so it was, the baggage was being transported from the flight in question to the Bangkok connection when the incendiaries on the baggage carrier went off, killing all three baggage handlers and creating an explosion that purportedly created a seismic disturbance that caused the entire airport terminal to shake, rattle, and roll, so that people had to grab on to something so as not to fall over. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was...
And the official story, the official report and the investigation into it concluded that it was terrorists.
Indeed, their findings led to the suspicion and the widespread viewpoint that it was done by Sikh terrorists. But I can tell you right now that Talwinder Singh, who was implicated in involvement in this affair was no Sikh. He knew nothing about the holy book of the Sikh religion, the Guru Granth. He knew nothing about the history of the religion itself, with the 10 gurus and other matters. He was patently ignorant about this. In fact, I know more about Sikhism than he does. Yes. And so I found this to be curious. He also didn't behave like a spiritual man. He had a turban that was bright orange and stood about 4 feet high, which would be suitable, I suppose, for a catwalk in a fashion show rather than to represent someone of the Sikh faith denomination. He also was at a York Mills Sikh center here in Toronto and entered into a dispute with moderates that were not for a militant response against the Indian government, and he then cowardly action that just doesn't seem befitting of a man of the Sikh persuasion, ducked out the back door and left his shoes outside the washroom to make it appear that he was in using the facilities, and then backed out down the alleyway and took off in bare feet. So this is just not the traditional behavior of a Sikh gentleman. Like, what's going on here? He then also attended a parade, which was a outside the Indian embassy or Indian consulate on Yonge Street, which happened to coincide with the Santa Claus parade. Some militants showed up, opened fire on the crowd, and 2 police were there for crowd control purposes and entered into the fray. And one of the officers received a graze to the temple from a bullet that ricocheted off the curb of the sidewalk and managed to survive. But the other officer ducked behind the cruiser and basically got out of the fray of gunfire. So Talwinder Singh was there. He eventually ended up being shot at the Pakistan-Indian border, which is a kind of no man's land. It's when you're on the border, you're not in any jurisdiction, and you're in a sense vulnerable because you're a persona non grata in a sense. Like, where are you? Who are you? You're at the borderlands. You're at the threshold of 2 countries. So that's where he was gunned down purportedly by snipers.
Is that that's the India-Pakistan borders? They're the ones where they have they do these ritualistic, sort of really aggressive ritualistic dances every. I wouldn't call them dances, but marches. These ceremonies that they carry out, and there is an area in between that's no man's land, isn't there?
What you're describing sounds like whirling dervishes and balls, the balls of Bengal. Would it be connected to those people?
I have no idea. All I'm just going on things that I've seen on TV, where they're at the India-Pakistan border, and you'll have some Indian, perhaps a crossing. You'll have some Indian military on one side and some Pakistani military on the other, and they do like a like the New Zealand rugby team. They'll do the haka, and it's like an aggressive sort of dance, and they do this every day at certain times, and it really looks aggressive, and it really seems aggressive, but it's just like a ritual that they play out every day.
I see. Okay, so it's like a military exercise, and it's designed to somehow show.
It's more ceremonial than anything else, I think. But it does when you witness it, it does really seem quite aggressive.
Wow, interesting, very interesting. So yeah, that's pretty much the story behind that mess. um,
Yeah, I'm just looking on. I'm just looking at, because I've never heard of this, but I've just been. I thought I'd have a quick look on Wikipedia.
mhm.
And yeah, it does seem to say this. So, are you saying that this was carried out not the way that it's described in this Wikipedia article in here? I know Wikipedia is not the greatest source of good information. It's just that it's where I just went just to get a brief overview of what the official story of it was. And you're saying that this is not what the official story, what the real story was. What's written
Correct.
here?
Correct. References so that your audience can, if they're interested, explore for themselves. Some Canadian academics wrote a book called Soft Target. That probably is the closest to the real story offered by the mainstream. Good for them. Good work, gentlemen. Well done. The other source that I would cite is a History Channel documentary about the 1985 Air India bombing. They did a good job, and even though I've done all my research independently, by all accounts, their version of events completely concurs with mine.
Okay, is that the 2008 documentary? Air India 182, it's called, I think.
Yep, I believe that's the one. So
Right, yeah. So people should be encouraged to go and have a look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, Canada is, a friendly neighbor of Britain and United States, and we should know each other's business, wouldn't you say? I mean, we should be sharing this information and being concerned about one another's national security concerns. And let's just say we share common ground. We share common heritage in many regards, so we should be looking out for each other, right?
We share a lizard overlord.
Yeah, yeah. This monarch has got to go, I guess. But I'm not against monarchy as such. What I am against, though, is a class system or a caste system. I have no problem with a ceremonial figurehead, but not a Rothschild plant or a Saxe-Coburg-Gotha German royal family plant posing as a British monarch. She's an illegitimate monarch, as is the entire so-called Windsor family, and they've got to go. But we should have the proper Stuart bloodline on the throne. Let's get to it.
What's the popular opinion over there in Canada about the about our lizard overlords? What do people think? Do people think that the royal family have value? Do they respect them? Do they consider them to be head of state? Do they? How are they portrayed? How are they seen in the general public?
I'd say that the older generation probably still has a high regard and venerates them. It was in my childhood that Victoria Day was celebrated. It's no longer called Victoria Day. It's had its day, let's put it that way. But as for the younger generation, I would say that Kate is probably just a pretty lady that they're enamored with because she's a pretty lady. And perhaps some young girls get faint of heart when they see the handsome prince. But beyond that, I'd say that they find it a useless anachronism that holds no place. Of course, when you're Canadian and sworn in as a Canadian citizen, you have to pledge allegiance to her royal majesty, which some people find objectionable, and that's all I have to say on that. I don't know.
And of course, it's the 19th anniversary today that most people were waking up to the news that Diana had been killed in that road accident. I know it was yesterday, but most people woke up on the morning of 1st September and heard that. How was that? How was that felt in Canada, and how has it been marked, this anniversary?
She was much beloved, probably less as a princess and more as a person of the celebrity kind that seemed to be a sincere and decent human being and was basically loved. I mean, she had a lot of fans and a lot of adulation, but we probably have a split opinion on the matter of her death, but I would say probably that the majority of Canadians would hold the opinion that she was murdered. But in polite society, when you're at a cocktail party, you just don't talk about such things, which I have no patience for. I'm going to say my piece on whatever I wish to say my piece on, and it's led me to being blackballed and ostracized by polite society, but I couldn't really give a damn. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to say what I believe, whether you like it or not. And if it means I don't get invited to the next party, well, stuff it. You know what I mean? I just don't care. This is what we have to start doing, is standing up for our beliefs and stop this political correctness crap from dictating our lives. I mean, be a man or be a woman and show some character, get a spine, and say what you believe. I'm tired of this crap. Like, speak, for God's sake. Speak out.
Yeah, that's what we certainly like to do on Raconteurs News, and we certainly have guests that speak their mind and not always go along with popular opinion. We've got a point that Ken raised. You mentioned the Stuart line. He's always telling me about how history is incorrect there, that it was actually the steward with a D line, and they were the stewards of the people. It's just been changed through history.
Okay, fair enough. What I'm just saying simply is let's get it right and find out who should really be on the throne chair. Like, I live with Peter Alexander McNay. He is directly connected to the kings of Ulster that were crowned at Tara in Ireland. Mm-hmm. That bloodline is connected to the houses of York and the houses of Lancaster, because when the family came to the county of Westmoreland in Scotland, they changed their name to Neville, and they basically, you will find that the DePoole family or the Neville family have consistently married down through the centuries into the houses of York and Lancaster on both sides, because they had this legitimate royal bloodline that came from Ireland. And it's a bloodline that carries the Israelite king line, because Tia Tephi, Princess Tia Tephi, was sent by King Zedekiah to Ireland for her safety during the Babylonian exile. And Jeremiah was her escort and her bodyguard for all intents and purposes, but he's identified in Irish folklore as Lug, the champion. Lug. Now, Lug, the champion, is related to the McNay family, which is the oldest royal family, or the oldest royal line in Ireland. And it's also related to the pharaonic bloodline of Egypt, and the Cohen haplotype has shown up with the line in question, which means that they are bloodline connected to the priesthood of the Israelites, the Kohanim as they were called. So Ireland is the tribe of Dan. They call it the Tauta de Danann, and that's the tribe of Dan. So we're looking at ancient Israelites populating that island, and eventually it will become knowledge. And there's prophecies in the book of Tephi, written by Princess Tia Tephi, attesting to the fact that she will one day return, presumably in a future life, and that she will unearth the Ark of the Covenant at Tara, and that the Shiloh, or the true Messiah, will be at her side at that point. Now, interestingly, I wrote a book called Goodbye Ruby Akhtar about a Jewish Pakistani lady who was a victim of child abduction, and she was taken to Ireland at the age of 12 by not just a pedophile, but a man who was connected to some satanic network in the British Isles. And she was subjected to satanic ritual abuse. And she's now campaigning to see that this child trafficking situation is addressed in the United Kingdom, but she's also campaigning for greater transparency on these matters in Europe, and she's launched a worldwide campaign to found these Ruby Rescue Centers to help orphan children and young women in distress, and to provide some shelter and safety for them. So she actually fit so many of the prophecies related to Tia Tephi, who promised that she would one day return, that I consulted with a spiritualist here in Canada to see if she might be the reincarnation of Princess Tia Tephi. And what did I find? That the angels that she works with confirmed that indeed she is the reincarnation of Tia Tephi. And I said, well, does that mean that the prophecy pertaining to the unearthing of the Ark and the appearance of the Messiah in Ireland is going to happen in this lifetime? And the answer to that was no. Presumably, the lady in question hasn't yet reached the point of divinity where she can fully carry out that kind of dharma, so she has to have the moksha of rebirth for a few more rounds, I suppose. That's my conclusion to that. But I was just amazed, and I've woven the story of Tia Tephi into the narrative to give the book greater fascination and color. So I'm hoping that when it is shown to the United Nations Committee by a representative of the UN, presumably later this year, it will actually be promoted nicely to raise awareness of this problem of child trafficking and satanic ritual abuse. I implicate an organization called the Brotherhood in the book as well. And I think you can gather from the name that it refers to Freemasonry, which I believe has played a big role in this problem. They traditionally, along with the Knights Templar, were behind the slave trade and the drug trade, so wouldn't you say that it would be no great surprise to find that they were behind the child trafficking trade as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, all roads not only lead to Rome, they also seem to lead to Freemasonry, don't they?
Yeah, and largely because of Vatican infiltration in the lodges of Freemasonry, probably through the Jesuits. So the Bavarian Illuminati was founded by a Jesuit priest named Adam Weishaupt in 1776, the same year that the United States was born. So we can see that the United States has been under the thumb of the Bavarian Illuminati, and I can actually provide substantial evidence to show that they murdered Abraham Lincoln. The U.S. Secret Service is actually controlled by the Pinkerton Security Company, whose logo is the all-seeing eye, which is, of course, a logo shared by the Bavarian Illuminati. That great seal on the back of the American $1 bill is actually the great seal of the Bavarian Illuminati. But for my purposes, all roads do point to Rome, because it was the Jesuit order of the Catholic Church that created the Bavarian Illuminati. Now, they're responsible for the French Revolution, and the proof for that is in a museum in Ingolstadt, Bavaria. The man that was acting as the courier and was carrying the plans for the French Revolution, perhaps by an act of God, I wouldn't be too disputing of that, was actually killed by a lightning bolt. He was struck dead by lightning. And the Bavarian police actually found the plans for the French Revolution in his coat pocket. Did you know that? His name was Lindt.
Yeah. Lindt as in the chocolate company?
Yeah, Franz Lindt, I believe, is his name. Yeah.
No, I wasn't aware of that. I've not heard that
Something
one.
Ooh, Gafford.
Yeah. And they were surely behind the war known as the Civil War in the United States. I can tell you that when Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth, there was a security guard named John Parker that was supposed to be standing outside the balcony box of the mezzanine, pacing back and forth with revolver in hand, and he buggered off to the local pub to ply himself with whiskey. And then the Pinkerton Security Company later apologized for having hired a guard that appeared to have a problem with the bottle. Well, that's not an excuse, and there is no excuse. And they should have lost all future contracts after that for guarding anyone of a VIP nature in the United States. So this just goes to show you that the fox is guarding the hen house quite by design, and that the Vatican wants to have guards in place that can follow orders to basically take out any world leader that they so choose at any given point. And so they make sure that the fox is guarding the hen house. So, yeah, the Bavarian Illuminati controlled the Pinkerton Security Company. And by the way, guys, the Pinkerton Security Company provides guards to the U.S. Secret Service still today, now. From 1865 to now, they still have control of the guard detail for all guards that wish to guard the U.S. presidents. There you go.
That's a pretty long-standing contract, isn't it? You don't normally see things like that carrying on that long.
Yeah, indeed. And so I can tell you that after Lincoln was shot, he was taken across the road to a house that was purported to be a rooming house called Peterson House. And the story goes that there was a man on the front porch waving them in to bring him in to be attended to. That was a house that was owned by German Americans. Why it was called Peterson House? I guess that's the name of the owner, at least that's what he used as a name. But at any rate, they carried or conveyed the president up to the second floor and laid him out on the bed. His wife was then ordered out of the room, ostensibly or under the proviso that she was distraught and that it wasn't good for the president to be disturbed and he needed quiet and so forth. But I believe it was so that they could administer the necessary poison that would see him leave this world by 7:22 the following morning. Interestingly enough, he was, shot on April 14th, died on April 15th, which is a striking series of dates because the Titanic hit the iceberg on the 14th and sunk on the 15th. They do like their ritual dates, don't they? By the way,
wasn't the Oklahoma bombing, that was in April as well, around about that time, wasn't it? And the Columbine shooting?
Yeah, April 19th, which is probably the most important satanic holiday on the calendar because it commemorates the murder of Abel by Cain, where his blood was spilled into the earth. So it's a day of ritual sacrifice for Satanists. There was a ferry boat in Korea that went down on the same date, April 19th. I think, wasn't that last year? I believe the disaster happened either 1 year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that was definitely satanic ritual sacrifice as well, no question about it. It was pre-planned, premeditated, the captain behaving in a completely unprofessional and completely inappropriate manner in response to the emergency. He ordered them to stay on board, and he took the quickest boat off the ship. I mean, come on, it's reverse protocol. You're here to go down with the ship, and everyone else is to get off. What are you talking about?
And on the subject of satanic rituals, Timothy, that ties in nicely to Dr. Rock, who's following us tonight on Raconteurs News. And Doc will be on the air at 9 p.m. UK time. That's in just over an hour. And he'll be joined tonight by Sandra Fecht to discuss her 30 years' experience in helping those who've been subjected to satanic ritual abuse and the protocol she's developed for calming minds and removing symptoms. Sandra brings a substantial and measured authority to this deepest, darkest and most widespread aspect of human experience.
You're not reading that, are you, Andy?
Sorry?
You're not reading that, are you, Andy?
Can you tell? We'll talk openly and frankly on the subject of its very existence, of which is systematically denied by the syndicated mainstream media, by most of the therapeutic community and by the judicial system. So stick around. Doc will be along at 9 p.m. and I know that's one I want to listen to because it is a subject, it's a very dark one, but I think it's something we all need to know a little bit about.
Absolutely. I wrote a book called Butterfly Dreams, which details the some of the horrors surrounding the residential school system, which was run by the United Church of Canada, the Catholic Church of Canada, and the Government of Canada, where the native children were taken from their families and put into these residential schools to be acculturated in European-style culture and to give up all their traditions and their traditional dress and so forth, and to be raised as proper, Canadian gentlemen and ladies. And, Anyway, they were abused en masse. Many of them suffered from tuberculosis and had open sores, and instead of being quarantined or placed in hospital care, they were put in the classroom with other non-infected students. And obviously this is just, seeming genocide exercise. And there are mass graves, according to Reverend Kevin Annett, who was a minister with the United Church until he was basically stripped of his pastor credentials, and he's written a book called, I think it's called Hidden from History, and he has a website, hiddenfromhistory.org, detailing all these atrocities, and a documentary film called Unrepentant. And
yeah, we were hearing an awful lot from Kevin Annett until quite recently, and he seems to have gone off the radar a little bit, Timothy. Do you know what's gone on there?
I honestly don't know, and I'm not sure that I'm altogether sold on the gentleman. I don't know whether he's what he purports to be, because he doesn't seem to honor his promises to people, and when he says he'll meet with you, he doesn't show up. And I don't want to cast aspersions on his good character if he is a man of good character. I just don't know entirely what to make of the guy.
Well, that's it. I mean, for me, I just speak as I find. If people treat me well and are right with me, that's the way I treat them. Going on what other people tell you isn't always the best way to deal with anyone, is it?
No, but I just want to say that even though there may be something not quite right in terms of the man, nevertheless, I do think that there's something to the claims about the residential school system and the purported mass graves that have been found. I know that one of these locations that's been cited is Allen Memorial College, McGill University. And from my own research, I can say that Ewan Cameron, who was a Freemason, did conduct experiments, mind control experiments, there at Allen Memorial College at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. And the claim is that under a pseudonym, Joseph Mengele was there collaborating with him on that effort. And the father of Mila Mulroney was also involved in the project. Mila Mulroney was married to Brian Mulroney, who's a former Prime Minister of Canada, and he launched the Deschênes Commission, which was an inquiry into the mind control scandal that I'm referring to, and apparently it was a whitewash and a cover-up, probably to protect his father-in-law from prosecution.
Right, okay. Well, thanks for that, Timothy. I see the first hour has flown by, and it's this time we normally play a tune to give ourselves a quick refreshment break, and so we'll do that, and we'll be back in about 5.5 minutes.
Take me back to my boat on the river. I need to go down. I need to come down. Take me back to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. Time stands still as I gaze in her waters. She eases me down, touching me gently with the waters that flow past my boat on the river, so I won't cry out anymore. Oh, the river is deep, the river, it touches my life like the waves on the sand, and all roads lead to tranquility base, where the frown on my face disappears. Take me down to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. touches my life like the waves on the sand, and all roads lead to tranquility base, where the frown on my face disappears. Take me down to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. Take me down to my boat on the river, and I won't cry out anymore. And I won't cry out anymore. And I won't cry out anymore. Starting to wake up from the sleep, from all the lies they spread that run so deep. But I will lace no more. Who are they fighting for? It isn't me. But now I see there is a new world order, but we're not invited. So much blood and murder from the drones unsighted. World War III is haunting me. I've got to find a way to save my family. The human race has lost its way. We put our trust in science, but it's a soup. Used to be civilized, but we've been compromised. We're on a one-way train. We've got to break this chain. Starting to see we should be free, and the powers that be, they want a piece of me. Should I do what they say, or tell them go away? What is the price for freedom that I just can't pay? The time has come to raise the bar, because we'll soon be facing a third world war. So let your voice be heard, and let your heart decide to stand and fight for freedom while you've still got time. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Stand up, stand up. Stand up, stand up. Wake up, wake up. All of the sheeple. Wake up, wake up. All of the sheeple. Stand up, stand up. All of the people. Stand up, stand up. All of the people. See, conspiracy been fooling me as I watch TV.
I'm David Halpin. I'm a retired orthopedic and trauma surgeon living in Devon. And I'm only too pleased to discuss things with Jason and Andy at Raconteurs News.
And welcome back to Raconteurs News this lovely balmy Thursday evening. It's almost like we're tropical here in the frozen north of England. Well, I know Ken will say it's the south, but you're way south of us, Ken, at the minute, so you trumped on that one, mate.
Yeah, Geordies are like hemorrhoids. If they come down and go back up, they're okay. But if they come down and stay down, they become a pain in the arse.
Okay, so... And I'll just check there, see if Timothy's all fresh from his refreshment break. Are you back, Timothy?
I am indeed. Thank you, guys. I'm fine. I've been just sitting here listening to this beautiful music, and I understand that he's a good mate of, and his name is Heath? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Heath.
Yeah. No, you carry on, Andy.
No, you go ahead, mate. He's your mate.
Yeah, he calls himself Heath Dweft. And that's a bit of a joke. It's a bit of a joke on him because if you Google his real name, it comes up with somebody that names the kids Adolf Hitler. So he changed his name to Heath Dweft, and it's a sort of intro from years ago. But yeah, so yeah, I'm sure he'll be flattered by your comments.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a classic soft rock number that I've heard from the past, I just think if it's not, then it should be. It's just lovely music. Wow.
Oh, thanks for that. We talked about quite a few different subjects in the first half, but the chat room are actually quite impatient to talk about Shakespeare, as we did mention that when we said you'd be having it on. So there are so many different theories out there as to who Shakespeare really was. Where do you lie on that matter with what you've found, Timothy?
Okay. Well, first of all, that it needs to be stated that if you're open-minded and you read the plays because you love them and you derive pleasure from them, just pay attention to the fact that there seems to be a different style confronted over the course of the works. In other words, there's not one consistent style that you're going to encounter, but seemingly a different pen at work, a different hand at work in several of the plays. So Francis Bacon and his half-brother, his half-tutor brother, Edward de Vere, the Earl of Oxford, are probably the two that you would see as being most responsible for the creative effort. But they were good, generous souls that wouldn't say that. They would say, oh no, the team of good pens consisted of 70 individuals, and research was being done, and books were being translated from the European languages into English, and we were part of a committee called the Honorable Order of the Knights of the Helmet, and initiated members would kiss the helmet of Pallas Athena, who is the patron goddess of the Greek theater, and she was called Hasti Vibrans, which means the spear shaker. And the reason she was called this, and is depicted in statues all over the world, showing her wearing her helmet and brandishing her spear, chasing away these serpents that are depicted as trying to crawl up her garments or up her spear. And that's because by enlightening the masses through drama, she was chasing away the serpent of ignorance and the serpent of vice. So they decided that since one needed to be anonymous and to write anonymously as part of this guild, since they were writing propaganda plays for the British or for the English court, for Her Majesty, the Queen up until 1603, and then she passed, and King James the First of England took power, and so they were writing for these respective majesties and their court. And court officials were being lampooned left, right, and center. They knew that some member of their ilk was responsible for the plays, or if not responsible for them, was passing on intelligence to the author so that they could basically blow the whistle on corrupt goings-on. An example would be Hamlet. With Hamlet, you have a play within a play called The Mousetrap. And if you would look at King Claudius and Queen Gertrude in the audience and see that they would be greatly uncomfortable being confronted by the reenactment of a murder, you would also find that Queen Elizabeth and her consort, Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, would also be squirming in their chairs were they to be confronted with the reenactment of their murders, since they had killed Amy Robsart, who was the wife of Robert Dudley, in order to pave his way to the throne. But since the word had got out to the courts of Europe that this scandal had taken place, they couldn't officially marry in public, but had to do so secretly in the country. And they had an adjoining rooms in the palace so that they could secretly have these rendezvous in the middle of the night. because there was a panel separating their rooms that could be slid to one side so that they could join one another in their respective bedchambers after hours. They met in the Tower of London when Queen Mary was on the throne, and both were arrested under suspicion of treason and were imprisoned in the Tower of London. Their long love affair began at that juncture and carried on. Francis Bacon, who was the Viscount of St. Albans, where he was raised by Lord and Lady Bacon as a changeling child, farmed out to the family by the Tudor Queen so that he could be raised in good company with great scholarly achievement, because he was being raised by the greatest scholars in the land. And the previous born child was Edward, who obviously was born Edward Tudor, but was a changeling child that was farmed out to the family of the 16th Earl of Oxford, whose family was a well-known theatrical family who at the castle Headingham would stage theatrical performances for the kings or queens when they were on royal tour. And this had been a tradition in the family for some 600 years. They were a Norman family, the De Veres, but obviously they had become deeply English and were, for all intents and purposes, an English noble family. This is the family that raised young Edward, who was the product of a royal rape, because Princess Elizabeth was raped by her stepfather, Thomas Seymour, when she was only 15 years of age. And her mother arranged for the birth of the child to take place at a home in the country of a dear friend of hers. And Lord Burleigh, William Cecil, her advisor and close confidant, arranged for all of these things to happen behind the scenes in closed company, and all unseemly affairs were kept under wraps. And so there is the history behind the play Hamlet, which was meant to blow the whistle on this and to also point to the fact that because of certain untoward acts committed by Her Royal Majesty, she had brought a curse upon herself which made her unable to have a claimant to follow her on the throne, because all of her children were conceived illegitimately and she couldn't acknowledge any of her issue, because if she did, then she would have a lot of questions to answer, which would have basically disgraced her and disgraced the throne. And so she had to keep all these bastard children secret. There's all kinds of letters on record from Francis Bacon begging Burleigh, William Cecil, and Queen Elizabeth to come clean on the fact that he was the royal prince, but both reached the decision that it wasn't in the interests of the crown, that it couldn't be done. When King James came to the throne, the Earl of Oxford was given a choice. Since he was seen as a threat to the ascendancy of the new king, he was, along with his son, the Earl of Southampton, imprisoned for a brief time in the Tower of London, and then was given a choice. You will go into exile. You will continue to write, because you're obviously a genius of great gifts. You will live out the rest of your life on the Isle of Mersey, off the coast of Colchester, Essex County.
I've Mersey Island.
You've been there, have you really?
I worked for about 6 months. Well, it must have been nearly 20 years ago, but yeah, I worked on the Isle of Mersey. Yeah, it's a little island off the coast of Colchester, near Colchester, and it's got a road that goes to it. And at high tide, the road is underwater, so you can only get on and off the island at certain times.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I'm under the understanding that it was, if not still is, surrounded by a poisonous bog, which would have made it difficult for an exiled prisoner to escape. Now, could you substantiate that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the beaches were crap. They really were. They were the sort of stuff that you'd get stuck in. You know, you'd sink up to your knees in the beaches were rubbish. The fishing was terrible as well. But yes, the whole island is surrounded by it's just a boggy silt type stuff.
Wow. Okay, fascinating. Well, I had a vision years ago when I was doing my Shakespeare research and so forth, and I saw a coffin that opened at the bottom of the sea, and there was seaweed that was kind of moving back and forth in the sea currents, and this white light came pouring out from the open lid of this coffin. And my suspicion is that the Earl of Oxford was murdered because as part of this vision that I had, which came the night after a Native American friend of mine named Zane Ivy staged a contacting the ancestors ritual with me in his apartment in Seoul, Korea. And I penned on a piece of paper 4 questions that I wished to ask if I succeeded in terms of contacting the ancestor in question. And so on this piece of paper I wrote, "Are you Edward de Vere? Did the Masons kill you? Why? And how can I avenge the death of Hamlet's father's ghost?" So these 4 questions were prepared so that I could answer them with automatic writing. So I then took the pen in my hand, closed my eyes, and under the influence of Salvia divinorum, a divination drug basically, a traditional native grass that they smoke during these rituals, I just let my hand do its magic whatever, didn't try to control my hand in any way, just let it go. So the answers to the 4 questions appeared on the paper, and the first was yes, in beautiful Elizabethan writing, as it happens. And then the second was Masons. The third question was answered by play. And the final answer was by writing. And so my friend looked at me and he said, "Well, that's a sentence. Yes, Mason, play by writing." And it answers all 4 questions, which means that it answers the final question: how can I avenge your death? How can I avenge the death of Hamlet's father's ghost? And so I've written a screenplay called The Lunatic, the Lover, and the Poet, which will be also a radio play. And with the good graces of my radio show friends, maybe Andy Young as well, it could be played as a radio play even on this station possibly, who knows, but I would like to do that.
That's certainly something we'd be interested in doing, Timothy. Yeah, we're always looking to add content that's that somebody's going to find useful, and through perhaps enlightening people on history through a dramatic version. I think that's possibly a good way of doing it.
So yeah, it's great to be able to get the word out, and I think the radio play genre is obviously something that would have to come back, as a genre for it to be popularized. And so if I can be instrumental, or if we can be instrumental in bringing it back as a popular genre, wouldn't that be great? Because heck, I mean, if they've got everything else locked up, Hollywood, Bollywood, whatever would, let's clear the forest and the trees and the woods and just do our thing and get the word out.
Yeah, I think that's great. We're always up for new experiences.
Well, we're looking at revamping a lot of the content. Not a lot, but we're looking at doing a small revamp on our content, aren't we? Anyway, and so a radio play would ideally fit in there. It'd be fantastic. Something that we could as well pop on the website, so people could listen at their own leisure, as well as playing it live.
Well, good, because what I want to do as project number one is to make a radio play about Titanic and to get the truth out regarding the disaster. I have a screenplay, and I feel that there's no effort involved whatsoever in just turning it into a radio play. And Andy Peacher of Freedom Talk Radio Network is probably going to produce it. We have all these photos from John Hamer's great book, RMS Olympic, and we can just have those images going in a lovely sequence on YouTube and have the radio play playing in the background. And through the syndicate of radio stations that I have a happy friendship with, we could get the word out and then have it go viral. I mean, why not?
Yeah, well, you mentioned John there, and started talking to John a lot more recently, and I'm really looking forward to not this coming weekend, but the weekend after, because we're actually meeting John in his hometown, because we're going up there for a conference, and so we're going to meet John and have a beer with him.
Uh-oh, I have visions of a pub crawl going through my mind here.
Oh,
this will
absolutely.
be wonderful for you.
Well,
yeah.
we're staying in a microbrewery, so what better place to start?
And he should be in a very good mood as well, because his football team are top of the league at the moment and doing very well. Huddersfield Town, yeah. So he's going to be a happy bunny, and it'll be great to meet up with him in Holmfirth.
Yeah.
Yeah, his son is a talented young fella, and he will be probably in town as well. So he might even join you at the brewery.
Oh, that'd be great. He hasn't mentioned his son. What does his son do?
I believe he's a stage performer, a dancer, and but I think he's multi-talented. I mean, he's done acting and all sorts. He's, I guess his father's quite proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what we were talking about the Shakespeare thing, one thing that puzzled me when I first this came to my attention was I thought, how can it be that the most famous name in literary history, we've got no one who actually wants to own up to being that person? But now we seem to see similarities and parallels with what's happening in modern life. We're suddenly getting people suggesting now that all the Beatles songs were written by the Tavistock Institute, that David Bowie was a creation of the Tavistock Institute. So really the same thing is...
Also, like, more up to date, what about Banksy?
What
Another
about
one who's an enigma. Nobody knows who he is. No one wants to own up to saying who they are, who Banksy is.
Ah, mm.
You know, that's what you were saying, isn't it? That nobody wants to own up to all this stuff, and it's Tavistock Institute stuff. I mean, maybe that's another one.
You have said a mouthful with that one, Andy, and you got it, nailed it. MK Ultra and all of its efforts are basically producing these mind control projects. And so you think, well, the Beatles and all these wonderful pop groups, or rock groups, whatever you want to call them, from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, They do. I can recall my mother saying, you go down into the cellar and you listen to that stuff for hours and you come out in a hypnotic trance and it's like you're being drugged. So, it seems like a lot of it had to do with mind control. There's a Kate Bush song called Experiment 4. Give that a listen. Even play it on the show and just have a talk about what you think it's about. Because if it's not about mind control and all such ugly things, I can't imagine what it's about. Because it's almost like a tell-all in lyric form. And yet, when you listen to it, it sounds like an innocuous song where you don't really know what she's going on about. But when you read the lyric sheet, you go, what? What? Experiment 4, Kate Bush.
Oh, wow. I'm just writing that down because it's not a song that I'm familiar with. I do like the sound of Kate Bush, but I'm not familiar with all her stuff. So, yeah, I'll have a look at that one. Thanks.
You do like a bit of Bush, don't you, Andy?
Absolutely, don't we all?
Oh, triple entendre there.
Yes. So what are you currently working on at the moment, Timothy? And what have you got planned for the future, along with the radio plays?
Well, that issue, the radio plays, is where my head is at right now. Coordinating it and getting it going. The Ruby book, Goodbye Ruby Akhtar, that's also on my mind because the contract is underway and signing contracts for that. And, well, I have a couple of screenplays I wrote over the summer, which I'll be meeting with my producer. You can see my film company website, sevenhillpictures.com.
I tell you what, Timothy, I'd like to put you in touch with Diane Jessie Miller.
Okay.
Have you heard of Diane Jessie Miller?
I'm afraid I haven't, but
right, well, she directed the film One by One, which was Rick Mayall's final film. We've interviewed her on Raconteurs News, and she was one of my favourite guests. So she's always on the lookout for new projects and people with the same sort of interests. I think getting these talented people that have got these ideas and things, getting them together, it perhaps be a good idea. So what do you think, Andy? We should hook them up?
I think that's an excellent idea. Yeah, it's always great if we can make those sort of connections and make things happen for the future.
Yeah, because we need to do this as a team, and obviously the beauty of it is that we can all share in the glory at the end of the day because we all made it happen together, right? So I've always been one to like to have the collegiate spirit of working together and sharing. And what I despised about my experience in the academic world is that there was all this selfish, ego-driven nonsense where they all wanted to get credit for this and that. And I like to work, like with my Gandhi project, I collaborated with Colonel G.B. Singh. With the Titanic screenplay, I know that John had written a screenplay, but I just wanted to write my own version. But I gave him co-author credit because most of the research came from him, and there were a couple of scenes from his original screenplay that I preserved. And I think it's nice to share things with others and to have a collaborative effort. And then when things happen for you, you've got 2 or 3 or more to celebrate with. And it's far better to have that than to be celebrating alone with an audience of 1. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we should definitely do, and I do agree with you. I mean, one of the songs that we played earlier on from Heath's, I think I wrote just one line in that, and I got a credit, and I got a credit for the line that I wrote, and that just means more to me than anything really in the world. So yeah, all coming together, all wanting to, help each other, and all wanting to inspire each other. I think that's the way forward for everybody. So I think we'll definitely get you in touch with Diane Jessie Miller, because I think perhaps you may be able to do something together.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I'd love to meet her.
Well, yeah, Diane's a fascinating young lady, and strangely enough, she lives over in Ireland. And we just had Captain Ray ask a question in the chat room about Ireland, and he's asking, does your guest have any connection with Ireland? I don't know if it's your accent. There seems to be a faint hint of an Irish accent there, Timothy.
Yeah, well, I had a grandmother her maiden name was Edith Bunting, and her father was from Northern Ireland. Also, a tremendous number of Irish people settled here in Canada, and at one point there were more Irish, there are more Irish people or people of Irish heritage than there are English and Scottish heritage over here. Newfoundland was almost entirely settled by Irish and Scots. A good portion of my province, Ontario, was settled by Irish and Scots. And the Ottawa Valley, near our nation's capital, has got an Irish lilt. Certainly Newfoundlanders talk in a dialect that most closely resembles that of Dubliners. So, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
There are Irish connections.
Ah, right. Yeah, so I know quite a few of our listeners have been having a look at your website. I did post the link in there. You've got a vast array of content on there.
Yeah, it's just can't help it, I get some download from the universe telling me that something significant, and it just makes me explore a rabbit hole, and I end up in China.
Yeah, I'm hearing from so many people about these downloads that it's quite phenomenal, the information that I get presented to me when they've had one of these downloads. It's really not something I've experienced myself, but I'd be fascinating for it to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you or don't you? I mean, you're pretty up on a lot of things, and certainly on money, and who knows, you might have had a download in your sleep, and that sent you on the path. Who knows?
Well, very possibly. I mean, for me, I never, very seldom remember any dreams. The only dreams I remember are recurring nightmares that I have. So who knows what I get in my sleep. But it does seem that for me and a lot of other people that are doing this, they seem to have arrived at where they've arrived at through being absolutely on the floor, on their knees, not knowing where to turn next, and then suddenly a path appears and they follow that path, and who knows where it's going, but it's quite an interesting journey.
Yeah, I've had my bumps on the road, but what I used to call mystical experiences, or some kind of serendipitous coincidence. These things still happen to me. So thank God for God, I guess you could say. And blessings along the road, all well well received, you got to say thanks. I'm certainly grateful for all the help that I've had from heaven above and from folks down here below. Certainly, it's made the difference. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the subject of mystical experiences, I suppose one of the strangest things that's happened to me while I've been on this journey was the trip we made to Rendlesham Forest a couple of years ago. Both myself and my partner not able to walk very far. Sort of 50 yards was about a limit. I was using a walking stick at the time. We walked up to the East Gate to meet some people, and both feeling quite in a lot of pain. And then someone said, "Shall we go for a wander?" And without thinking, we followed them. We walked for about 4.5, maybe even 5 miles. But there was no pain while we walked through the forest. No pain at all until we got back to the car. And then the battered old cell phone battery that wouldn't hold charge for a couple of hours was suddenly fully charged, and it stayed fully charged without recharging for over 6 weeks, and it wouldn't hold charge for a week when it was brand new. And I just mentioned that because when we go up to meet John Hamer weekend after next, on the Monday we're going down and we're going to meet some friends and have another trip through the forest in the daytime.
Wonderful. The only thing that I have to compare to what you're describing is a visit to a little village in Somerset where the sun stood still in the sky for what seemed like hours, and we went to have tea and scones at a quaint old hotel, and there was no one on the street, and these old row houses, well, I don't even know if I would call them row houses. They were charming. They were nice places, but they were just seemingly the whole place was like a ghost town, and I just felt that time had frozen, the clock wasn't moving, the time had stood still for hours. I don't know what status that experience held, but it was my brigadoon. I mean, it was odd, very odd.
Yeah, well, the Rendlesham Forest is really well known over here, and it's well known throughout the world, really, because it's the place where in December 1980, the US Air Force, who were at that base because they were defending their nuclear weapons there, went out into the forest because there was something in the forest that was moving about. It was lights, they surrounded it. There was a solid craft that was seen, and entities coming from this craft. So it appears it does have some kind of portal or something in the forest, because it appears that the creatures from other places or dimensions come and go. And one of the friends that we're going to meet photographs some of these strange things that they see in the forest at night. It's really quite incredible. And he also captures voices on his spirit box.
How fascinating.
Mm.
Well, there's no doubt that that small island holds many, many fascinating phenomena, just endlessly so, and it's I would have to say that England, Scotland, and Wales are one of the most important spiritual centers on the planet. I mean, there are a few, but it stands out in my mind as being very, very powerful. Very powerful.
Well, I think that the land where you are now, the natives there were very spiritual people, but unfortunately they seem to have all but been eradicated now.
Well, in Canada, there's still a lot of Aboriginal people, especially in the western provinces of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Um, I don't know what to say about the so-called natives in British Columbia, because there's some that came from other locales that claim to be native and really aren't. But there seems to be a diverse origin to these so-called Native American peoples. For example, the genetics are now in on the Cherokee tribe of the United States, and the Cherokees have been found to have Middle Eastern origins.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was a multicultural continent from the very beginnings, and I think those folks were from all over. Some of them came presumably over the Bering Strait and to Alaska, and then migrated from there. So you can find Inuit or Eskimo dialects that resemble the Mongolian or even Korean, because Koreans come from a Mongolian root as well. And then you have some tribes that seem to have come up from Peru. And God only knows where they had originally come from, the Incans and...
Well, all over Central and South America, there's the huge statue heads that are carved out of pretty hard rock that are thousands of years old. Nobody seems to remember where they came from, but they're depicting Negroid features.
Oh, you mean Machu Picchu statue reliefs or somewhere else?
There's Machu Picchu. I can't remember all the names. I'm not good with the South American names, but I've just recently read Fingerprints and Magicians of the Gods by Graham Hancock, and he details it quite good in there.
Yeah, Graham Hancock is wonderful. I remember reading Fingerprints of the Gods a few years ago, but I haven't read that more recent book of his. I should.
It's a follow-up to Fingerprints with some amendments on what he's learned since he wrote Fingerprints 20 years ago.
I see. Huh. Well, it was a great book and a tremendous contribution. I really loved that book. So I'll take a look at that new book of his.
Yeah, I can thoroughly recommend it. And Graham, you know where to send the commission check.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll send me a copy of his next book when it comes out.
That's great.
We'd love to talk to Graham. We did get him lined up. He was quite keen to come on the radio show before Magicians came out. But he wanted to wait until it had been released and keep his powder dry. Unfortunately, ever since that came out, we've had no luck in getting hold of him. So we'll keep trying.
Oops. Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. But
yeah.
We have got a great guest lined up as our next guest after you, Timothy. We've got someone who we had on a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately the gods of the internet weren't kind to us, and about 17 minutes into the 2 hours, she lost her internet connection, as did the whole of her neighbourhood, and unfortunately it didn't come back on until 10 minutes after the interview had finished. So we're going to try again this Tuesday with Andrew Johnson and Dr. Judy Wood, author of Where Did the Towers Go?
Judy Wood. So, yeah, no, there's no question then that she was messed with so that she couldn't get more of her findings out to the public on your wonderful show. Yeah, No, I know, I'm familiar with her work and her take on the events of September 11th. And I think she's, of all the researchers that have looked into the cause of the tower's collapse, she's closest to the truth, which explains why she's had such a rough go of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to getting her back on.
Right. Good.
Have you ever, Timothy? Have you ever looked into the the history of St Michael's Mount in Cornwall?
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's part of the Tia Tefi Israelite queen narrative, but I need to go back and review my literature on that. But please enlighten me. Tell me what you know about it.
Well, I was mostly coming from the same perspective as Mersey Island, which we were talking about earlier on, and it's another place that it's like an island that you can get to at certain parts of the day, but you can't when the tide's high.
Okay.
And it's got a huge castle. I'm sure it's got a huge castle built on it as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's really got a checkered past. I didn't know whether you'd looked into it at all.
Well, I will now. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Yep. Well, thanks for sharing that. I will certainly look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know where you want to go with the final few minutes. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about, Andy?
We've got about 7 minutes left, and we can go absolutely wherever you would like to, Timothy.
I see. Okay. Well, maybe just finish up with a little bit more on Shakespeare. How's that?
That would be cool.
All right. Romeo and Juliet seems to be the product of an event that happened in the Earl of Oxford's life when he was a naughty lad. He decided that he wasn't going to be faithful to dear wifey, who was the daughter of William Cecil, Lord Burleigh, Anne Cecil by name. And so he cheated on her with, of all people, the Queen's handmaiden, Anne Vavasor. Now, this is the woman that would be helping the Queen into her corset in the morning and helping her into her farthingale and all that. And, well, let's just say it would have been such an insult to Her Royal Majesty to be carrying on with the woman that's responsible for getting her ready in the morning in her bedchamber. I mean, what more scandalous type of affair could you possibly have? And through this affair, he actually impregnated the dear, and so that child was born and became an English parliamentarian who could not hold the name of the House of De Vere, but ended up with the name Vere, and so his name was, I believe, Edward Vere. But anyway, that affair did not rest well with her uncle, Thomas Knevet, and he challenged Lord Oxford to a duel. And there was a feud that took place, a family feud which would resemble that of the Montagues and the Capulets that erupted over this affair. And they ended up carrying dockworker pikes and whatever weaponry they could find down by the London docks and having a go at each other. And they basically came a hammering on the door of the Blackfriars Theatre, where Lord Oxford's company of players would rehearsed the plays, and said, okay, boys, let's have at it. And so they ended up out there on the docks having sword fights and all sorts, pike fights and whatever. And so what happened was the Queen was so incensed with them both that she had them imprisoned in the Tower of London for a time. And so to retaliate and get revenge, it would seem, and at least, Lord Oxford ended up penning Romeo and Juliet, and insulted Her Royal Majesty quite soundly in the famous balcony speech, who jests at scars that never felt a wound. Well, in fact, the author was wounded in this sword battle with the uncle of his mistress, suffered a wound to his leg that caused him to have a limp for the rest of his days. He never fully recovered from the injury. But at any rate, the speech goes on. The speech is really an address to Her Royal Majesty. So it's, he jests scars that never felt a wound. But soft, what light from yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill not the envious moon that is already sick and pale with grief that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. So what you have here is him referring to the vestal that's worn by the servants of the queen, and it's green in color, which resembles the color of envy, and he's bidding her, the maid, to cast it off because she shouldn't have any faithful regard towards the queen at all, and the queen is jealous of her because of her youthful beauty. As it happens, Queen Elizabeth's occult name was Diana or Cynthia or Virginia, referring to the chaste huntress, the goddess of the moon, which down through the ages and through the different cultures has gone by an assortment of different names. Isis and Ishtar in the ancient Babylon and Egyptian mythology, but we know it by the Greek and Roman equivalents as well. And, so Virginia, the state of Virginia, would be an example of how this name tends to trace itself back to royal pedigree. The founding of the states of the Americas was really at their behest, right? So when Jamestown was founded, it was founded by Francis Bacon, the son of Queen Elizabeth I. When Newfoundland was founded, it was founded by Francis Bacon, the son of Queen Elizabeth I. When Upper Canada, British North America, as it was previously known, was founded, it was founded by Francis Bacon, son of Queen Elizabeth I. So, obviously,
I've got to say, Timothy. I mean, we've just been sat here now. You've just been talking for about 6 to 8 minutes, and I'm completely dumbfounded. To be honest, I really am completely dumbfounded. I'm completely engrossed, and if the screenplay writing don't work out for you, then you can always come back on Raconteurs News, and we'll have like a Raconteurs News alternative media Jackanory, and you can be the reader of the story. I don't know if you know what Jackanory is, but it's like a kids' TV program from '80s where somebody would sit and tell a story, and that's really that's really how it's engrossed me and engaged me tonight.
Oh, well, that's great, guys. I'm so pleased. I don't take credit for the fascination of our world and its history. I just happened to stumble upon it all, and I just can't tell you how exciting it is to finally meet people that can appreciate it, because I just find so many closed minds out there that just won't pay attention to what could be a good yarn, if nothing else, but could be important as well if they opened their ears and their minds to what's out there. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is indeed a fascinating world, Timothy, and I do hope you'll be able to come back and join us again on Raconteurs News soon, and we look forward to hearing your radio plays. We'll be back on Tuesday evening, as I said, with Dr. Judy Wood and Andrew Johnson, but right now, tonight, we've got Dr. Rock coming up next with Sandra Effect, and if the kiddywinks are up late because it's school holidays, perhaps it might be an idea to get them off to bed because it's satanic ritual abuse, and I believe there's going to be no holds barred. So without further ado, I'd like to thank Timothy for coming on and joining us tonight. It's been absolutely fascinating. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Jason, thank you. And thanks to everyone who's listening, because without you, we'd be just talking to ourselves. Thanks, everyone, and good night.
Nightingales, not enough Robin Hoods. Too many halos, not enough heroes coming up with the goods. So you thought you'd like to change the world.